1, 2, 3. Look at these cute earrings. Oh my gosh, aren't you gagged? Let me just really quickly do a little bit of this. I don't think that this will make it into the video, so I can just be silly. I love just starting stuff. It's so fun because you never know how it's gonna turn out unless you start it. You can like think in your head about like how cool and awesome it's gonna end up, but like anything can be cool and awesome in your head. It's all about like making that cool and awesome thing, and then you realize like how hard it is to make something cool and awesome, and you're like, wow, maybe I suck. But that's fine, everybody sucks, and you don't have to be great to make stuff. You just have to like making stuff. How does it look? Do I look cute now? Do I look hot? Are you ready for this episode? Today, I am joined by myself, the capricious creator, amorphous slug, appreciator of goats. I'm your host, Caitli, and I would just like to ask, how are you lately? I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to like sit here and talk with you. Mostly talk with myself. Maybe like get some things off my mind. That's always like the thing that I'm out to do, is like get things off my mind. That's why I'm always making stuff, is like that's my method of getting it off of my mind. Oh shit. Nothing. Let me start by answering the titular question of this podcast about how I've been lately. And how I've been lately is, honestly, if I'm to judge the format of this podcast already before it has even hit the boots on the ground, asking someone how they've been lately is actually like, that's such a hard question to answer, because like, am I good? Am I bad? Am I just like a whirlwind of all of these emotions at once? Probably. I feel like if the end of the day is good or bad, then that's how the whole day is, or you know, whatever gets recorded in my journal. Right now I feel good. I feel fun and silly, and it's a great time for this first recording. But also just generally, I don't even know how I am. I always want to be good. It's nice to feel good, and it's nice to say that you feel good, and sometimes I feel like I get a little extreme with the rose-colored tinting on how I view my life and stuff, but I don't know. I also think that that's fine. There's so much sadness and darkness in the world that if you can just pretend that there's a little bit less of it in your mind, then in a way there kind of is a little bit less of it. Is that a dumb thing to say? I don't know. This is why I need someone else to like be like, Caitlin, what are you saying? What are you talking about, you know? My idea is that I think that's sort of the fun icebreaker where I'll have someone on, I'll ask them how they are. You can give me like a 1-sentence answer, that's fine. Or like, that can be the whole thing. We can just talk about how you are. But otherwise, we can, I think, move on to any number of topics that could be talked about in the span of a little conversation. And that could be fun. I think it would also be fun to have some like pre-planned segments to do. So I'm gonna brainstorm on those. I will of course be taking suggestions from the peanut gallery of such things. Yeah. So those such things. Other things I wanted to talk about. Basically everything ever. But I do have like a lot of things that are on my mind that I think could be like fun seeds to potentially explore with someone else who is also interested in discussing such topics. I've had a lot of thoughts, but they're hard to really articulate because in life there are these sort of different periods between, like, you could categorize them in lots of different ways, and you can simplify it in lots of different ways. I think one way to look at it is like, there are sometimes periods of rest, there are periods of tension, there are periods of doing, there are periods of going. You could imagine your life on the scale of these periods lasting for weeks or months, or you could also shift through all of those different things throughout a day, and that's affected by stuff like all sorts of stuff, like the seasons, your mental state, how stuff's going with your like social circle, and all of these things. They're all factors that like contribute to the messiness and chaoticness of life and living life, and you know, trying to categorize how you're doing, what you're doing, and all of these things. Sorry, I feel really silly when I talk like this, but it's just how I talk, because it's like how I think, or I don't know if I've always thought this way, but I'm like trying to build myself a better way of thinking about stuff and how to approach different obstacles that come up as you like go and you live, and you realize like ideas that you have about the future and like what it's going to be like. I'll just say, for me at least, they're just much different than I could have ever imagined. I really couldn't have predicted anything about like how my life is now when I was younger. I probably imagined my future way differently, but not that it's like different in a bad way, but it's just different because like how could I have conceived anything about what it's like to be an adult and have all these new responsibilities and stuff, you know? I think that's sort of part of things that you don't really think about. And now I'm thinking about them because I'm an adult. This is another thing. I just feel like lately I have had the opportunity in my life to have the moment to sort of like have the space to think about all, just like reflect. I don't know if I've said it earlier. I always forget, but it's because all of these things are always on my mind. So in my head, it's like, well, these are obvious things that I already know, but like articulating them out loud is another thing because you have to like coherently make a story about how, blah, 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 blah. Don't even go there. You get me, right? You get me. Anyways, it's July. Oh my God, which is so wild because like, so there are 12 months in a year, and we're in the 7th month, which means something. And I know I'm like always going on about how like denominations of time are just social constructs that we made up to confine ourselves to mechanical hands. But also, time is a real thing that we organize ourselves by. And it's like one of the most tangible, intangible things. Does that make any sense? Oh my God. I'm always so like, what the fuck am I saying? But I feel like it makes sense to me. But, you know, like... Sorry. It just gets hard to translate the chaos sometimes. But, yes. The calendar does give me pause sometimes. Makes me consider my own mortality. But I think that way about a lot of things. Like, I could look at a cloud and think about how I'm gonna die one day. What is that feeling? I don't know. Like existentialism? The existential anxiety and horror of existing. And I think it's a relatable feeling, because we're all sort of just trying to make our way through the chaotic soup of living and being a human, for which there are many variables, not all of which are under your control. It's a lot of noise also to parse through. It's a hard thing to do. And nobody has it figured out. Nobody knows what's going on. Not even your mom. She has no idea what's happening. And we're all just hanging out. Trying to figure it out. You know? It's like, maybe we never will, but god damn it, we'll try. I think a lot about dying. Not that I think a lot about dying. I think a lot about, like, the finite nature of life. Oh my god, let me just get dark for a second here. It's not that dark. I feel like it is also relatable to go through periods of darkness where you think about all of the existential anxieties out there and consider conflicts or struggles that you're up against in that moment of time, and the hauntingly obvious and easy way out. I'm talking about killing yourself. It's a very harrowing thing to like consider and think about. Making peace with life and living and what is your purpose, probably like one of the hardest things to do, especially when you live in a mad world where all around me are familiar faces and worn out places. It feels like it's very difficult to orient yourself to any sense of what I should be doing when it feels like everything around you is falling and breaking. It does like give you this really odd cognitive dissonance if you can't figure out a reason why you're still living. I have felt the call of the void, that sort of escape from the chaos and uncertainty and anxiety associated with being a person and living and interacting with other people and dealing with the world and all of its problems. God, it's a lot. It's so much. I think I'm like building up to a point where I'm gonna be like, and that's why you shouldn't kill yourself. But like, honestly, I don't think I'm gonna have a super compelling argument for it. At least not right now. Maybe, we'll see. You need to make peace with it, okay? With the struggles in life and the Sisyphean task of doing chores every day. This is all part of it, okay? I wrote like a whole long ranty script earlier. I don't even know if I'm gonna call these things scripts anymore. I think I'm just gonna call these thought dumps because I don't even use them as scripts. I like desperately want them to be, but I never finish them. The last video that I made before like the ASMR no talking unboxing one that I made, like that video was just an amalgamation of like 5 different scripts that I had that were like lying around, and I was like, I need to do something with these or else I will explode. Like when I have a lot of things that I have been working on and like had the idea of making into a thing and they like just build up, I just feel like I'm gonna explode if I don't make it into something. I think that's why I have to like make this podcast right now, because I had so many things to say, and like I'm obviously not going to make a like organized edited video anytime soon. So this is, you know what, I take it back. Earlier I was bagging on how like a podcast doesn't make sense for me. It makes perfect sense for me because I have so much to say, and I I just got that so much. Where were we? I think I was telling you not to kill yourself. Here's why you shouldn't kill yourself. Because I love you, like, and I would be really sad if you did that. So please don't, like, at least for me. I understand that maybe that's not the best reason, so I'll come up with some more. They might not be as good reasons, actually. I feel like not killing yourself for me is probably the best reason to not kill yourself. So I don't know. I could just start listing stuff, like listening to the birds. Is that like a gay reason to live, though? It might be, so maybe I won't say that. Or like, no, fuck that. That is a good reason to keep living. Have you heard birds before? It's amazing that every day there's just a beautiful new painting in the sky. I think about this all the time when I'm like driving home from work or I'm going on a walk and I look into the sky and I see this beautiful sunset and clouds, and it's just like, I can't believe that like that's the sky. Isn't that wild? Okay, sorry, I feel like this is... Does that feel fake? Because like I'm so serious about like I love looking at the sky. Lately also I've been like so into Chappell Roan, so unrelated to what I was talking about, but like I'm so obsessed with her. I only just listened to her latest album I think last week, and I'm a stan. I'm obsessed and I love her. Honestly, like the pop girlies are fucking killing it with the music this year. Like so much good music has come out, not just the pop girlies too. Oh my gosh, the new Mother album came out this year. Scarlet came out last year, but the deluxe version, such a banger. And I want Marina to come out with a fucking new album so badly, but I don't know. She's either like really good at keeping a secret, or she's just like having some time vibing right now, which I get, because she also just like wrote a whole ass poetry book, which I'm so excited to get in October. Pre-ordered the second that she put that on her Instagram story, so I'm so excited for that. What other things do I want to talk about here? I'm sorry that like none of these topics are gonna be fully like explored or finished in a satisfying way, because that's just how my brain works. Like they're finished in my head, so if you want to know, you'll have to like go in there, or you could come on this podcast and we could chat about it a little bit. Oh, I forgot that I was going to be experimenting a bit with talking into this microphone. But yeah, if you have any topics that you would like to discuss, maybe something that I've mentioned here, maybe something from your own little unique mind consciousness, it's always nice to get new ideas and into the pool, into the awareness of the minds of many, and by many I mean whoever watches this. Yeah, I mean, the conversation can go anywhere. We can talk about anything, and all it costs is you have to tell me how you've been lately. So earlier I was talking a bit about how I feel like I'm at a point where I have space for me to reflect on the past and things about that. And I just feel like lately I feel so comfortable knowing not who I am, but like what I want. Not over dramatic. I know what I want. I don't know. Also me when I'm a liar. Because there are some things that I have figured out and like feel comfortable with in terms of like my identity and how I feel about it, and other things that I'm realizing I might need some more time to think about it a bit. June is over, which is really sad for me because I've been like working on writing a script. I've like drafted like 3 different versions of this where I wanted to explore a bit the concept of gender and like specifically like my gender identity, because I think back to how I felt about it when I was in high school. Sorry, I'm just like, oh, so many thoughts get like tangled together, like all of the feelings. When you unravel one of them, like they all kind of start to unravel. When I think about myself in high school, like I think about all of like the anxiety that I had, all of like the uncertainty that I felt, and I definitely still feel anxiety and uncertainty, but I think when you grow up, you have new things to be anxious about and uncertain about. But the things that I was anxious and uncertain about in high school, I feel like I have really learned about them and how I feel about them. And one of those things, as I keep beating around this bush, is the concept of gender and gender identity. I think like high school is like kind of the prime time for discovering who you are, or like experimenting with who you are and trying to figure that out. I was already dealing with like being bi in high school, which I feel like was already confusing enough for me, so I didn't need to like also think about the gender thing. I kind of just accepted like, okay, it's not like causing me that much stress to think about. I think I could just leave this on the back burner for a bit. And now here I am taking all these pots off the back burner because they're like coals now. The conclusion that I kept reaching when I was trying to draft this video where I'm talking about how I feel about my gender is kind of just a conclusion that I think I'm gonna be reaching for a lot of things when it comes to like finding your identity or like identifying with something. It's that I don't really feel like identifying with labels is something for me. I understand that for some people, for a lot of people even, it can be like a really meaningful thing to have a label, to put words to something that you feel inside, and to have other people recognize that and see you as that thing that you want to identify as. And when I was in high school and confused and really wishing and wanting, those identities for myself so that I could feel like I knew and understood myself. And I spent so much time feeling like bad that it was so confusing for me. It's confusing for everybody because what is a label and what is an identity? You don't even know who you are. You don't. And like, is that so bad? Is that horrible? Did you like come out of the womb expecting that you would just like, oh, I know what I am. I'm this little robot and I have all of these characteristics about me and that is who I am. Like, what? You're a fucking sorry, I get so passionate about this, but like, you are a person, a living being. You can learn lessons, you can make mistakes, and you have so much like room and space to like honestly be. You can be anything that you can think of. Sorry. Oh, they should put me down like a sick dog. Anyway, was I talking about gender? Yeah. Basically, I don't care. That was the conclusion I found. I don't care. But it's like, yeah, you do care, because it's obviously something that you think about, and I don't think everybody like thinks about their gender that much. I think it's like certain special, some of us that have like confusions about it, and that's fine. That's the tea. That's fine, and I'm fine with it. I feel like you guys got the gist of like the whole gender thing, right? If not, then you can always come on and ask me some more about it. So that was one thing. That was one thing that I could have the space to think about and explore more. Another thing. Oh, how am I going to transition into this? This is very deep and personal, and I'm going to spend my entire life unlearning some of the things that I learned from Catholicism. But that's another topic. Religion! Yay! I don't even know where to start with this either, because such a can of worms. I love the way that they say gods in Final Fantasy. They're like, oh, thank the 12. They say like, oh, gods, because there's like multiple gods. Anyway, do I believe in multiple gods? Do I believe in a single god? Who knows? But what I do believe in is that I was fucking scammed. Sorry, I didn't want to. I always feel like very, very hesitant to say that I have religious trauma, because I don't know if that's like too severe a way of describing what I felt and what I went through. And also, like, I feel like it implies like a lot of really heavy things, which, I don't know. I don't want to like over imply like how bad it was. It was bad for me mentally and in a lot of ways. And I think it kind of, I'll get into it, but as I do, I like to look back on the past with very rose-tinted goggles. So a lot of the times I look back and think about I like to reflect on the positive things while understanding that there were lots of negative things and darkness that happened there. But, I don't want my story to be one that's like shrouded in darkness. I want it to be like lighthearted and fun and cute and nice. So I actually feel like I never really sat down to reflect and unpack all of the things and feelings that I had when I was a kid and everything to do with religion, essentially. There are so many ways that like being raised in the way that I did in the church like has affected like who I am and how I go about things and like how I have ended up and my feelings on religion and all of these things. I don't know, it's like a really big pillar of like what makes a person who they are. So it's like I want to get into the guts of my religious baggage. I have never in my life experienced more anxiety attacks ever than during that period of time in my life. It was just a very stressful time for me. And at the same time, I don't know, some Bible stories are kind of fun, actually. Like, I like listening to them. Also, VeggieTales. VeggieTales is kind of a sleigh, when I was in elementary school or high school, maybe, every day after school, I used to watch Jonah and the Whale. The full movie was just on YouTube, and I would watch that every day after school. VeggieTales is so good. Wait, before I completely just tangent off of that into another topic, I just want to say, like, my feelings about religion. They're weird and, like, complicated because I obviously have, like, the way that I grew up with Catholicism that kind of scarred me and did lots of horrible things to my psyche. It's fine. I'm fine, but I'm not fine. I was raised Catholic. We're just silly here. We're just staying so silly. So I went through all that, and then at one point I was like, hey, actually this sucks, and I don't like being in this constant state of anxiety and feeling all of these things that I do. And also there are some logical inconsistencies in this religion here that are messing with the part of my mind that needs everything to be organized into boxes and squares that make sense. So then you were like that for a while, and then you realize that you have lost the pillar of meaning in your life of how you should live and why you should live, because when you're little, your parents give you this amazing gift of the idea of an afterlife through religion, and then that's what you work your whole life towards, being good so that you can get into heaven. And then when you stop believing in heaven, then you have to like come up with a brand new like scheme for why you should continue living. Because there was at one point where I was just so pious and I was praying for the day that I would be granted the ability to speak in tongues. Where was I? Oh yeah, and then you just don't have a belief system to work on. You're like, what is life for? My reason for continuing in high school was that like I liked I love those like dangerous fair, like county fair rides that are like shittily put together and you could probably die from. So I think that's a good reason to live for. Like I could ride a few more of those. There are some people that I think are pretty cool that I would not mind hanging out with a few more times. And also like the experience, I don't know, I think taking away this idea of something that comes after living and like all you have is life, it gave me a different perspective on like how to think about things in life. Life is no longer just like a long drawn out complicated test for this like afterlife thing. I had to face the possibility that like maybe this is it, this is all there is, and how do I contend with that when there is like so much, not so, I don't want to act like there's a lot of darkness in the world, but there is a lot of darkness in the world. There's also a lot of light if you look hard enough for it. But I also came to the conclusion that, you know, I liked experiencing life. I liked experiencing emotions, just generally all emotions, good and bad, because there's just like very intense feelings that you can have within yourself. And I was like, okay, that's worth chasing. Let me just put like an asterisk on that. Horrible reason, horrible like way to look at it, because that idea of like chasing intense emotions led me down like a lot of just like really romanticizing my own darkness and pain and like dwelling on these things that make me feel so intensely bad. At least I'm feeling something, you know? you know that feeling? I had that feeling when I was an edgy teenager and listened to, is that a 3 Days Grace song? The ones that pain without love, pain. Okay, it's gonna be embarrassing if that's not 3 Days Grace. It might be like some other Christian rock band, I don't know. You just tell me, I'm not gonna look it up, never mind, let me close this. But anyways, I keep like getting on these kind of long tangents that I'm almost forgetting my point. Let me like try to finish this. So you like get to that and I was like, emotions, woo, that's my reason for living. That was not a good way to live by, because I'm trying to like circle back to how I'm feeling now. Let's do this a little non-linearly and talk about like how I feel about religion now. Not like, I guess specifically religion, but I'm just gonna use a word, and like I'm just meaning to use this as like a category, not like literally this word, but like I'll use the example that John Dewey does in Art as Experience, because I read books and I'm such an intellectual. He calls it ethereal things, okay? That's his sort of word for, you know, things that are like relating to divine things, mythical things, ethereal things. I think that's a pretty appropriate word. And even after I lost my faith, I still, like, there was a part of me deep down that still desperately wanted to believe in ethereal things. Like, I feel like my perception of myself growing up, like, in high school was that, like, I was a very mathy kid. I was very, like, logical, left brain, Capricorn. I guess Capricorn wouldn't fit into, like, the category of logic, but, like, in terms of astrology, like, Capricorns are all about the business or whatever, but, you know. I wanted to believe that so badly. So, like, I found myself believing, I still believe in magic. I think that you should just, like, whatever magic is, I think you should believe that it's there. There are things that you can't really explain. I don't care if it's, like, called something different, but, you know, magic. I like to call it magic because I grew up wanting to be a witch, you know? I did believe still that there was an afterlife. Not like the heaven or hell, though. I, like, made up my own afterlife, so original idea that when you die, so there's something else. And I was, like, really into astral projection and all of these things. And, like, I'm saying, like, in hindsight, looking back at that, I think that was, like, my desperate want for this belief in these magical things, ethereal things, things that can't really be explained by what we know now. And, like, that was one of my reasons for losing my religion, was this feeling that the religion did not fit well into my mind. So kind of marrying those two ideas together, I think differently about religion now than I did when I lost my religion, but I am, one, still, like, formulating not necessarily formulating my feelings, because I think I know how I feel about it inside, but feelings are very, like, fickle things and not always so easy to describe or really understand fully, or to, you know, be able to really articulate that. So that's kind of the point I'm at now. I can't, like, fully articulate how I feel about this specifically, but I would love to get to a point where I can, so I can sort of share that experience. And I don't know. It's fun to share. Sharing is caring. I thought that I would get more of my nails done, but I really really just got into that. Wow. I was just really feeling myself. I don't know where we left off, but I've been going for about an hour now. I don't know how long this episode will be because I'm surely going to cut out lots of stuff, but I hope you enjoyed that. This is the first episode, the pilot episode of the podcast that I'm going to be titling Lately with Caitli. And if you would like to be on it, well, seats are open. Fill my DMs, you know what to do. And I will be screening your topics. We'll sort of discuss a bit about what kind of things that we want to talk about. And then we can have a lovely, honestly, kind of second pilot episode. I think episodes where it's just me are going to be much different than episodes where I'm talking to someone else. So, well, we'll see what like an actual like 2-person version of this podcast looks like when you message me and when we join each other together for a lovely conversation. I know I had like that cute, fun little intro. I did not really think of a fun, catchy outro. So that, I'll workshop that. And I think that's all that I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that any of it made any sense at all. That would be nice. And I hope that you drink water and that you stretch your back and eat the appropriate amount of protein today. Those are some good things to hope on someone, I think. Okay. I love you. Bye.